Commissioner will be joining us shortly. I also want to start just by thanking Sean and Brandon for giving a great tour of the Specialized Transit phone recall station center. I don't know what to call it. The phone center? Booking center. That's what I call it. Raman and I, or Commissioner Raman and I were just go in the weeks ago and see kind of the progress we've made. So it's one of the things the tour. And moving on to completion and acceptance of agenda. The motion for that. No, would you like to reorder?
Yes, I do have a question. I don't see some of the items like new business or inquiry, and I'm not going to raise anything by way of putting it on the agenda today, but I just do want to advise that I would like to have a discussion about the Hamilton decision, the BusAd decision that just came down, because that's something that I think we've left hanging, and I would like that on the next agenda. And I'll do what I need to do formally to get that on the next agenda, along with the request for some documents. But if people don't know, the highest court in Ontario has come down with the decision.
Just so that we can keep it tight, would you be able
Yeah,
to?
oh, yeah, sure.
Agenda?
That's what I said I was gonna do. I'm sorry if I'm taking too much time.
No, that's great. Okay, so submit, I'll just make a note there, new business for the next meeting. Okay, any other requests for change of order or anything for this agenda?
I'm just wondering if we might want to take the items that we think are going to take more of our time, maybe move them towards the beginning. I don't know. I'm just concerned that this is a very full agenda today.
I mean, if you would like to request to reorder anything, feel free. Otherwise, I'm hoping we can get through it all within 2 hours. Okay, then a motion to accept the agenda. Moved by Commissioner Raman, seconded by Commissioner Morgan. All in favor? And any opposed? Okay, we'll accept the agenda and I'll keep it tight so we can get through it all. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? None. And approval of minutes from January. I get a motion for that. Moved by Commissioner Raman, seconded by myself. Any comments or questions on the minutes from January? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries. And communications. So there are 4 items for communications, and Commissioner Raman did circulate some recommendations for items 3 and 4. So we'll pull those. Would anyone else like to pull 1 or 2? No, so maybe I'll get a motion to accept the letters from the city clerk, items 1 and 2. Moved by Commissioner Raman, second by Commissioner Morgan. Any comments or questions on those 2 letters? Seeing none, then all in favor? And any opposed? So that's carried. And then we'll go to item then 3 for communications from the APSAC committee meeting, and Commissioner Raman, do you?
Thanks. Yeah, I would like to propose a motion that the commission direct administration to post messaging on the specialized fleet, providing London Transit customer service contact information as indicated in the communication.
Okay. Do you have a seconder for that motion? Second by Commissioner Morgan. Any comments or questions on that item? Came from the main recommendation. Okay, seeing none, then all in favor? And any opposed? That carries. And then moving on to item number 4, the second APSAC meeting from March. Commissioner Raman, you heard the motions.
Thank you. Yes, I do. My first is, again, coming out of the communication that the commission appoint T. Liston as a voting member to APSAC to fill the vacancy, recognizing that T. Liston currently is a non-voting member of the committee and meets the qualification of a voting member. And my second part of that motion is to do as 2 separate, whatever you like.
Well, just do them together.
Okay, to confirm the key performance indicators, KPIs for 2026 that were outlined in the report for the specialized service as set out below, and request administration include data showing the booking line waiting times during peak times in future reports. I'll go through each one. So the indicator versus the measure. So the indicator first, the percentage of customers utilizing online portal with a measure of 20%. The indicator for the time on booking lines is 3 minutes. The indicator of non-accommodated trips at 0.5%. The indicator of trip cancellations at 20%. And the indicator of trip no-shows 1.9%. Trip pickup under 30 minutes, 99%, and rides under 60 minutes, and 98%.
Great. Is there a seconder for those two motions? Second by Commissioner Morgan. Any comments or questions on those items?
Still have an II, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. The II is with respect to the committee recommendations, re-access controls to the scheduling system, customer portal, that we have information or package so that the commission received recommendation noting that additional details is provided for commission review in the staff report number 6, dated March 30th, 2026.
Great. I guess I assume Commissioner Morgan's heard that.
Yeah.
Thank you. So both of those are on the floor. Any comments or questions regarding the appointment or the KPIs? Okay, seeing none, that's been moved and seconded, so I'll call the vote. All in favor? And any opposed? So those items carried. Wonderful. Then moving on to consent items, we have 7. Does anyone want to pull any photos separately? Well, otherwise, I would take a motion for all of them and then we can have comments and questions and discussion. Would anyone like to pull any? Seeing none, and can I get a motion to accept 1 through 7? Moved by Commissioner Morgan, seconded by Commissioner Lehman. All right, so those are all on the floor. Would anyone like to start?
Well, wait a minute. I would like to pull, 4.
Okay. Do you have any plan amendments or to vote separately on it or?
I'd like to vote separately on it, and depending on how the discussion goes, I will have amendments, and depending on how the discussion goes, I may have more content in those amendments.
Okay. Even though we called the vote on 1 to 7, we'll pull from 7.
Yeah.
And the rest then, 1 to 3 and 5 to 7 will be on the floor. So we'll go through those and then come back to 4. So any comments or questions? I will say I did request that we have a bit of an overview of the reserve and reserve funds just because there's a lot of information there. So I don't know if folks want that information first or.
I was fine with reading it, but
Yeah, you have it.
whatever others like. Yeah, I do.
Okay, well, maybe we'll just start quickly with that and then we can, if anyone has any follow-ups, but would you mind presenting kind of a quick overview?
Up to. Obviously, the report summarizes in extensive details the reserves and status as of December 31st. All activities within the reserves is provided from 2023 to 2025, i.e. the actual of what happened, and then projection for 26 and 27 based on the 26 recosted budget and the 27 multi-year budget that was filed. It obviously highlights the reserve of the provincial gas tax reserve fund, the capital program reserve fund, the public liability reserve fund, the energy management reserve, general operating reserve, and the healthcare management reserve, totaling over $36 million. Each reserve is discussed in detail, including its history and purpose, administrative guidelines to manage each, annual contributions to and from the reserve, as well as an assessment of its current status and estimated status going forward. All but the provincial gas tax reserve are said to be in good standing as per the guidelines, but noting that the provincial gas tax reserve fund was anticipated to fall where it was through the multi-year budget. The good standing of the reserves will be of significant importance given the current uncertainty and recent extreme fluctuations in diesel fuel prices. The energy management reserve is the likeliest of the reserves that will be called upon to manage that, and they will also be available to support other unanticipated negative costs or revenue impacts. With that, we have to.
Great. Okay, any comments or questions from 1 to 3, 5 to 7? No? Okay, Commissioner Robert.
Excuse me, just, I just want to say thanks to staff for answering some of my questions with mutual respect and the right side. Excuse me. While I appreciate the context and the information, I do think some of the language just needs a little bit of clarification and send some thoughts on how we might clarify that. Just with respect to the process by which someone makes a complaint. I don't know if I need to read in any change language or is it just going to go?
Through the chair, so the commission approves the policy, but the procedures are administrative, so if you're happy with what was proposed in terms of the change, we can, that will just happen, but if you're happy, if you want to share that, that's fine too.
Yeah, sure. So one of the concerns that I just raised was just around the process as it's employee facing, about how to make a complaint and whether or not there was a responsibility by the complainant to try to stop the harassment, and whether or not, if the harassment continued or not, they could still make a complaint. Which I think are important just to specify in terms of the practice of the policy.
Would you want any comments or Michelle comment? Scott, do you have any additional information?
Just what I provided to the commissioner in terms of the clarification that we can implement.
Thank you.
For sure.
Yeah, and the only other point is that we use terminology like the workplace investigator in the policy, and although the policy has definitions in terms of what those words mean, I do think, again, it's one of those things where if you face a circumstance, it's sometimes difficult to know who to report to, and just making the reporting as clear as possible that it's to your manager or somebody in authority, versus having to find that specific workplace investigator person. Although they oversee the complaint process, it kind of read like they needed to be more involved from the get-go. And I just, that can be, again, a bit of a challenge in the workplace to find the right person to provide feedback to or recommend or initiate.
And that feedback has been provided. Okay, wonderful. Any additional follow-ups on the other items? Anything else from other commissioners? All good? Okay, so we have 1 to 3, 5 to 7 moved and seconded. There is no call vote. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Now moving on to item number 4 from the 2025 commercial tender service performance. Commissioner Grasso, you have any questions?
Well, yes, I think this is a very significant report. I think this is the sort of report that warrants a little bit more discussion. Rather than just being accepted on the consent item, so I pulled it. I would like to defer to staff to see if they have any additional comments they'd like to make. I do have a few questions, but I was just hoping we could get more of an overview of the situation. On the one hand, we're pointed to a number of exogenous variables that account for our diminution in ridership, and I think these are well known: funding, tariffs, supply chains, all of those things. The students, the immigration situation, but I think we need to give more attention to what are some things that are within our control. So I'd like to see some more discussion and maybe some brainstorming on the part of this board as to things that are within our control that we can do to enhance ridership going forward. And I think before I want to make a motion that don't take this down yet, but it's along the lines of this should be placed on the next agenda. There should be a staff report. We should do outreach to the public that we're having this discussion. And then I'd like to list a couple of specific suggestions that could be included in that staff report and discussion. But there may be more that arise in the course of this discussion today.
And in regards to having staff comment further on the report, is there any specific area or question?
Well, it's a very general question, and that is what can this commission, given the resources that we have, and given the power that we have, what can we do to turn around this? I don't want to use the word downward spiral because but that's how it's being characterized. What can we do within our power, given our resources, to improve the situation?
And just so for follow-up, is it like in regards to the voice of customer survey results that we got from the commercial trains and riders, or there are a number of items in this report?
It's whatever Steph would like to talk about. I just feel as if, quite frankly, I'm a little surprised that something of this magnitude is being dealt with as a consent item And that, I just want to hear more from staff about their thinking about this before I make specific suggestions. Or maybe I can make a couple of specific suggestions and we can use that as a way to start the discussion. It's up to you.
Any preference? Would you like to comment on the report or ask some questions?
I mean, yeah, through the chair, I mean, I think that the report generally speaks for itself. I would say, the things specifically within our control are identified in the various tables throughout the report as areas of focus. Those are areas that we can control and that will be the focus of operations going forward in 2026. Again, this will also be the basis for the annual report, which will be tabled with the commission in April. So that's the more formal, obviously gets into not this level of detail, but this will be the basis for the annual report, which is the public facing document that we share. And I can't really think of anything else specific that's provision here.
Commissioner Chopra, maybe you have some specific suggestions?
Well, okay, sure. Besides the decrease in student enrollment, which I'd like to get more specificity on that because I think I don't think it's as dire at Western as it is at Fanshawe. And I think that's an important distinction that has to be made. The other thing about Western is, I'm sorry, did you want to make a point more?
Yeah.
The other thing about Western is that it's such a competitive school to get into. I mean, they will fill up. And I have a lot of confidence that even if Western is unable to have as many international students coming in as they would like for revenue purposes, they have no end of qualified applicants and they will be able to fill things up. So I'm probably a little more concerned about Fanshawe. So I'd like to get more clarity on the breakdown between Western and Fanshawe because they are served by different routes. That's one thing. Do you want me to?
We can, if you want us to ask that as a question, I can ask staff. They have the breakdown between the two.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mike, I don't know that we have the exact breakdown. I mean, I think it's fair to say the more significant portion of the decline in enrollment did occur at Fanshawe. I don't know what that exact percentage is, but in no way is this report intended to talk about dire situations at either institution. This is just a reflection of the number of students that they had enrolled as of September 2025. And that obviously impacted the 2025 results for that, September through December, and it will impact the 2026 results. So that's just our reality in terms of the number of students that are enrolled. We don't try to project or predict those numbers. We work hand in hand with both of the institutions to get those estimates as we're preparing budget. So this is their numbers. These aren't our numbers. It's just the reality of what's currently in play in terms of the number of students that are participating in the program.
Okay. And the related to that is the fact that there has been a steady decline over the last few years, even before the changes to immigration policy were announced. So I'd like to have a better understanding of what the relationship between the factors that led to ongoing declines. It's not just a 1-year drop. And I would like to see that. I would like to see that in more detail in another staff reporting.
I could frame it, Richard Chopra. So it says in here that ridership levels have declined by approximately 0.627 million rides. So are you requesting that staff further outline what has caused the decline and where it's allocated to?
Yes, because that will point to where I'm ultimately going with this. My next series of questions would be along the lines of, okay, we're getting a decrease in the number of enrollees from Western and Fanshawe. And if nothing else, this highlights to us how important these sort of macro projects are, where an entity provides transit service to in the case of, the students, the students, but what I would like to encourage, and what I'd like to have more discussion on, and what I'd like to get a staff report on, is are there other employers or are there other employers of institutions where there are a large number of employees who would be good candidates for us to really work with on an individual basis? To have, programs where they purchase either a group of tickets at a discount, or we talk about creating an enrollment contract similar to Western's. This has come to my mind based largely on my discussions with St. Joseph's in my ward, and they're going to be expanding their parking lot quite a bit. And one of the things I'm trying to talk to them about is how about before we decide how many additional parking spaces we need for staff, I'm not talking about patients. What can an institution like St. Joe's, which is a massive employer, which is already on major bus lines, what can we do to try to work with them as an example, to maybe have a similar program? I think we need to investigate that. The other general point that I'd like to throw out right now, and I do want to hear what other members of the commission have to say about this, is special excursion buses that would travel along existing routes, but would be specially programmed for nights games, which could originate in a variety of parking locations like malls where there's lots of parking, nights games, Rock the Park, Sunfest, Rock the Runway. Most of these are downtown, but I was thinking about Rock the Runway might be a good candidate for, and it's a special excursion bus. And that's just a couple. I think that if we held some brainstorming sessions, we might be able to come up with some additional ideas. So I think, I think with that, I have other ones, but I don't want to be the only person talking here. So I'd like to know what other people think, but I would like to make a motion, along the lines of, we have point 1, we have point 2, point 3, that the matter of the reduction in ridership be placed on the next LTC agenda with an accompanying staff report, such discussion and staff report to include. And we can fill that in.
Okay, so I feel like in order to get a secretary, you might want to have what the bullet points are. I might suggest an item is, it sounds like you want staff to report back on the decline in ridership as well as opportunities in the future for increasing ridership in new areas.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well,
And I don't know if they could do that by April, but I feel like that maybe summarizing the requests you had. Would that be the motion you might be interested in?
Yes, I would like it in April, because even if they can't give us full answers to everything in April, I think this has to be an ongoing discussion. The other thing that's going to happen if we put this on the April agenda is we will get more feedback from the public, some of which won't be helpful, and some of it might be helpful. And I really want to bring the public into this discussion as much as possible. I want to better understand what it would take to get more people onto transit. And yes, I know we need more funding. I mean, obviously that's the main point. But even with that, I want to know right now, as people are sort of making decisions about how they're going to go about their day, what can we do to get more people on the on the bus, not just for their daily routines, but for many of the special events that create a lot of congestion. So is that motion?
Well, so if you are amenable to the motion being direct staff to report back on the decline in ridership as well as opportunities for increasing ridership, and you want it for April.
I do, because I think this has to be an ongoing discussion.
So I guess that motion then will be on the floor. So if you're moving it, are you good to move it?
Yes,
Okay, is there a seconder? Or we discuss it further? I'd be willing to second if it's not an April date. I don't see a seconder for your motion as it stands. Commissioner.
well, I'm really sorry because I think we really should not be leaving this room today without an immediate plan about how we're going to be addressing this in an ongoing way. If I said May, would there be a seconder?
There's no meeting
Well, maybe there should be.
in June.
Okay, I mean, I want to have this discussion. And I don't want to put staff in a impossible situation, but I think there are some ideas that are emerging from the community, and there's a lot of dissatisfaction, and we need to deal with this. So sure, June.
Okay, so a motion on the floor of staff to report back on the decline in ridership as well as opportunities for increasing ridership with a report back for June. You're okay to move that?
Yes.
Okay, then I'd be okay to second that. So that's on the floor. Perhaps staff, do you have any concerns about a June date or any follow-up thoughts on that? No. No. Okay. Any discussion from other commissioners? Commissioner Ryan?
Yeah, you know, I know where Commissioner Trossard is going with this. I do have some concerns. I think, you know, it's pretty clear. When you have one of our biggest riderships, students, and the students, the numbers show quite clearly where it's coming from. But I think where the commissioner is going for, there's also an overall trend. I don't think London's the only one facing this. We haven't come back from COVID. Throw in Uber on top of that. People are finding other ways to get around, even to share rides. I don't mind exploring potential partnerships with private interests. I'm not interested in subsidizing those, for sure. If the Knights want to work with transit to have, you know, park and ride, that's great. Let's explore what we can offer them to increase our ridership. Same thing with Rock the Park or, you know, at the airport, etc. I think right now, the students is a big concern. But who knows? With the price of gas spiraling right now, might not be a bad time to look at, you know, maybe campaigns to advertise LTC as people look at the cost of, you know, of driving your own car. Hey, maybe, you know, maybe that was the time I looked at taking the bus, and then once you get habits forming, you may see they can make it happen within their daily lives. Not that time, so you know, maybe a marketing ideas, you know, at this particular time, take advantage of the spike, you know, the gas, which I think is going to be with us for a while. Not a bad time. So I don't want to put staff under undue pressure to report, but given there's a bit more time, back to the commission for sure. It's also
Thank you for those comments. Any other questions or comments on the motion? For sure.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if staff might be able to provide a little bit more about how they interpret what they'll bring back in June.
Through the chair, well, we can certainly do a deeper dive on the ridership analysis. I mean, as this report pointed out, the big piece of it obviously is just the decline in enrollment and tuition. So, I mean, that is the majority of the rationale for the decline. And I could say it is happening across the sector in any community where there's post-secondary, you know, post-secondary agreements similar to what we have. Everybody is seeing the same thing. So we can certainly do a deeper dive into that. In terms of potentials, again, you know, a number of the things that have been talked about are discussions that we've had in the past. We can certainly provide, you know, this group with some of that history. By way of example, hospitals, we've numerous times met with hospitals about deals like that. Unfortunately, a UPass scenario won't work because that means every employee has to participate, which is difficult. And then it comes down to how much of a discount are you going to give us, you know, in order to have this partnership. So then we get into the whole, you know, subsidy discussion again. So we can certainly provide all of that background and ideas of things, but the caution I will throw out again is, you know, part of why we're seeing dissatisfaction in a lot of this is the crowding and the schedule adherence that we're experiencing on the service based on the current loads that we're carrying. So we always caution that you don't want to go out and encourage people to come out and have a bad experience, because it's very difficult once they've had that bad experience to convince them to try again. So, you know, campaigns work and plans work as long as the growth in the service and the ability for us to, you know, make the improvements that are necessary to attract and keep those new riders. It's all part and parcel. It's not as simple as, hey, come out and give us a try, and then, you know, the bus that you were waiting for drives by and it's full. That's, you know, that's not a good first experience. And unfortunately, we are still experiencing those types of scenarios on a regular basis. So that's, again, we can bring all of that back in a report. The caution I would have is there's nothing in this report that you're going to get in June that's going to say, here's how we're going to turn ridership around in the rest of 2026. Like there's a whole lot of things that have to happen in order for that to occur.
Charlotte?
Do you have any industry, thank you, that was very helpful. Do you have any industry related insights into how marketing campaigns work in terms of boosting ridership? If there's a strong correlation and if there's, you know, minimal correlation or any of that kind of information that you provide back to us in June?
Well, we can certainly reach out to other partners. I would say, again, it's a lot more about the experience. Once you get that person to give it a try, and the fact, you know, is it a viable service? I mean, we talk about all the time. One of the things in the 5-year plan was, one of our big goals was to get rid of any frequencies that were still at 60 minutes in the system, because I think we can all agree that a 60-minute frequency is not a viable option for most people. They miss that bus and now they're waiting an hour for the next bus. We need to bring those frequencies, we need to improve those frequencies to make it a viable option. And you know what? If you miss a bus and the next one's coming in 20 minutes, that's a lot more palatable. So things like that are all included in this current 5-year plan to, again, try to get that base service to a point where it is a viable option for, as the commissioner noted, somebody who's considering buying a second car. You know what? No, we live close to this transit route. It runs at a good enough frequency that I can make sure that, you know, it's going to work for me. So that was really the crux of the 5-year plan that we're in the middle of right now, is trying to address all of those things with the hours that we have available.
Thank you. And if we were to undertake some sort of a marketing plan or something of that sort, will we do it with an existing budget, or are we looking to attach a budget to something like this?
Through the chair, it would depend on how big, you know, how big and broad. I mean, we do have ability to put, you know, posters in shelters, on buses, that kind of thing. That's all part of our contracts. So we have the flexibility and the ability to do that within budget. Sorry.
Thank you. I was hoping to discuss the transit app. So I'm glad this item was pulled for discussion. With respect to the app, if we are considering another way of capturing ridership, I wonder, do we need to approve the transit app today? Since it is a significant cost, it's actually a different strategy than what we're talking about now. To me, it's actually, I don't know if it's going to be a parallel strategy or not, because if what comes back in June is, hey, we need to spend more money, this is a significant amount of money for an app. I'm not sure that I could actually fully justify the expense of at this point. So I don't know how we want to have that conversation in parallel to after this motion is done.
Yeah, so I was planning on dealing with this amendment first, and then it goes back to the main motion because we haven't approved the recommendation from staff or received the request. So just planning to finish this amendment first.
Okay.
But if you have comments where the passing of the next thing influences your decision right now, feel free to comment.
Yeah, so I think that it does. If we're looking to change strategy and not support the current strategy that's in front of us, which is to support this transit app, then That's where I'm a little bit more challenged. I think what I'm reading through the report is that we feel that the transit app is necessary to address some of our customer related concerns when it comes to things like understanding the timing and scheduling, right? So if we're changing our strategy to be one of more growth, then I need to understand where that money comes from, because I don't want to get a report back that's addressing growth concerns and have no budget to do so. So I'm just trying to be mindful of what pools of money we have available.
Any other comments or questions on the amendment, which is the report back in June? I'll make a couple quick ones from the chair. I see this as a good opportunity for us to have a better understanding of both the decline in ridership as well as opportunities for increasing ridership. I'm okay personally with the report back from staff to outline those things. It sounds like there has already been work done in the past. I think it would be good for us to understand that and understand the limitations, if any. And if there is budgetary impacts, again, I think it wouldn't be in this cycle, it'll be for the multi-year budget process. So I'm okay to explore what those would look like if we want to continue to enhance ridership and increase it. So I will be supportive of the amendment. And then after that, we will go back to the recommendation outlined in the report. Any other comments or questions before I call the vote on the amendment? Yep, for sure. Warner.
Yeah, just a quick question. So I'm wondering if the report back would, given what you said through the chair, of course, about challenges related to performance. One of the higher ranking items is coverage, and that is coverage of the breadth of the city. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So given that's the highest ranking and the performance is low, has there been any thought about like just fundamentally shifting things around, like just doing fewer routes really well, or like because the coverage seems like the score's high. These other things are scores low. So would this report back consider, any sort of adjustments or just would open the line of discussion for that? Like I mean, if the real challenge is people aren't happy because buses are driving by, should we focus on fixing that, even if coverage has to change a little bit? Just wondering if that's part of it.
Through the chair, and Kate can certainly jump in here, but I mean, coverage is intended to be, the people that are saying coverage isn't good is a bus doesn't come to me in my, with what I think is in reason.
Yeah.
And we know there's all kinds of areas in the city that don't have, what we would call good access to transit. Certainly part of the annual planning process, we look at the performance of all routes. And, if there's a route that's underperforming and not meeting our thresholds, we will go to the commission and say, you know what, this route isn't doing what it needs to do. We suggest removing it, and we'll take those resources and we'll put them here, here, and here. So that's part of our annual process. What I will say is we don't have any routes that are underperforming. We have the opposite problem. Our routes are they're operating at over capacity. So we could certainly still do a realignment, but then what you're going to do is you're going to take away service from routes that are already, struggling to even maintain schedule adherence based on the ridership that they're seeing. So it's an enviable position because all of our routes are performing very well. But what that means is in order to make improvements, we just need more investment. There's not really an opportunity that I wouldn't be taking a bus away from a lot of people that use it every day to give it to somewhere else. That opportunity really doesn't exist when we look at the performance of our routes.
Okay, but just a follow-up. On the if the report back is going to show very clearly that decline in student ridership numbers because there are fewer students, are there any provisions within the contract to, if the contract was kind of like a bulk purchase, and there's fewer people in the bulk purchase, would the price potentially go up in the future because there's fewer students? Like if the price was based on there's X numbers of thousands of students and now Fanshawe has shrunk by 30%, would we look at the rate that we charge for that people, right, to offset some of the lost revenue?
Through the chair. So the contracts are generally usually 3 years when we renegotiate. And certainly all terms are on the table at the point of renegotiation. We've never really looked at it as a, you know, you need to have this many to get this level of discount. What we try to balance in those contracts is the total revenue that comes from those contracts against the total ridership. And if you do that very simple math, is that entire population paying close to the average fare of the rest of our riders. So we're really trying to balance that. So it's not so much about, you know, you added an extra 2,000 students. Well, if none of those students ride the bus, which is part of that whole universal program. So we look at it at a much higher level.
Yeah.
Again, like those kind of totals, and we want to make sure that that population is paying their fair share consistent with what the rest of our ridership is. So that's really how we approach. Now, that's not to say that, you know, the next renewal, we couldn't look at that, but that's typically how we've approached it.
I think through the chair, I think in part that would actually address that to a certain degree. The question that I had, because you're looking at the cost versus the number of people in the pool to determine the bulk rate. So I think that would kind of self-correct over time as well. So I'll be interested to see that. And the other piece is, so the city, in partnership with the Transit Commission and the federal and provincial governments, is building out the rapid transit network, and heavily intensifying residential development along those lines. So do you, in the decline of ridership numbers, like at what point do you forecast what that might look like, right? Like both the intensification along the rapid transit routes, and then when those routes come online, how the adjustments made. Because I'm okay with more shorter term blips in transit ridership, but I'm interested in, like, you want to talk about investments necessary. There is a very significant investment coming, which will transform the way that parts of the city receive transit. And we've been, council, I should say, with other hats on, have been very heavily incentivizing to be like actually incentivizing development along those lines with per door incentives. So I guess when does that come into the assessment of where ridership is headed?
So obviously there was a whole separate ridership assessment undertaken with those BRT
Yeah.
business cases. We certainly, when we did our 5-year review, we looked at that again, obviously in conjunction with everything we were trying to do with the base system. I can say that as rapid transit comes online, I mean, we've currently got routes that service those same corridors. So part of the big plan is that we won't duplicate those services in a lot of cases, but those hours will then be able to go and do what we just talked about earlier to you know, prop up the base system and improve frequencies on the routes that are serving those rapid transit corridors, again, to make those wait times that people are transferring more palatable to the customer. So again, we do it certainly in depth every 5 years. We look at growth forecasts and all of those things as part of our 5-year plan, but then again, annually, you know, through ridership, through experience that we're seeing, if we're seeing stuff happen on a corridor in terms of crowding and that kind of thing, that's part of what you would see in your annual report. So it is something that we look at yearly, but in depth every 5 years in that 5-year service plan. And that's done, essentially, we do that consistently with the 4-year budget. So once we know the hours we've got to work with, then we develop that plan around that.
Okay, so I'll make some comments. I appreciate the answers to the questions, because what I'm hearing is, for everything that I'm contemplating on what I would potentially discuss with the report back, it sounds like it's embedded in existing processes and other reports. And I feel pretty comfortable with that. So I'm not sure I'm to the point where I don't want an additional report in June. I think for the questions I have, you seem to be on top of these things within the different structures of the processes you have that will play out over time. So I appreciate the answers.
Commissioner Chaucer?
The discussion through the chair, the discussion that was just raised, which I think is right on in terms of the facts. We're approving a lot of intensification along routes, with the hope and expectation that we'll be able to upgrade that, including the provision of, and I don't know if transit village is the right term to use, but something along the lines of what we have in Masonville. And I know that there has been discussion about having a park and ride type of facility near the corner of Oxford and Wonderland. I'm looking at Commissioner Lane because I'm really talking about his word now. where are we with that? Which I think is a subset of the broader question of how are we coordinating with the recently adopted, master mobility plan, which does, as one of its assumptions, want to, get people out of cars and into transit, but more specifically, where are we with the Wonderland area, large lot? Or are we looking at different sites? Because that area has been pretty developed now.
I'm not sure this is entirely relevant to the amendment on the floor. And I'm wondering if perhaps you could email staff that question.
Yeah, I think it is, because I think that everything is interrelated, and I'm trying to build on what other commissioners have been saying, and I want to give staff as much opportunity as possible to address these types of issues when they come back with their report. I think not addressing the fact that we do not have, and correct me if I'm wrong, or correct me if I'm wrong in June, we do not have a site planned right now for something in West London along the Oxford corridor is an increasing cause of concern, especially in light of the increased density we've been allowing there. So I think it's very related.
Do you have an answer to that question, or can I back to you?
Through the chair, when the west leg of the rapid transit corridor was not approved by council to proceed at that time, for the work at looking at a park and ride facility did not continue, because that was part of that whole rapid transit project. Now that the Oxford corridor is part of the mobility master plan, looking at making that a rapid transit corridor, once we have approval for that corridor and the funding in place, that is when we would start to look again at possible locations for a park and ride in the West End.
Okay, so at this point, I'm correct in my assumption that there are no immediate plans for doing that.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions on the amendment, which is back for June? I've got a mover and seconder, so I'll call the vote. All in favor of report back in June? And any opposed? That carries 3-2. Okay,
I'm sorry, what was the
3-2.
could you just say who that was? Just, I didn't see it.
Sure, you, me, and Commissioner Lehman were in favor.
Okay.
Okay, so then that goes back to, we still have a recommendation from staff from item 4, which is to approve a 1-year pilot partnership with the transit app to provide real-time deeper information to customers at an annual cost of $158,000, and the report be received for information. So at this point, to get on the floor for discussion, we get a mover and seconder for those recommendations
As amended.
as amended. Yeah, there's an item 3. Aye.
I'll move it.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Trossel, and I will second it. So any discussion on the items, Commissioner Robin?
Yes, thank you. So I wanted to get a little bit more detail around the transit app, just to dive into some of the numbers that are provided. So the 14,765 users, are those local users?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. Those are local users.
Thank you. And so what information can they access currently using the app?
Through the chair, it depends on if they pay a subscription fee or not. If they are using the free version, you can only access information in the current area where you're in. So for instance, for right here, we would be able to get information for the Route 10 and the Route 7. But if I needed to connect to a Route 15, I wouldn't be able to see that unless I paid for the subscription to get beyond the paywall.
Thank you. Can you provide kind of a summary of cost for a user?
Through the chair, I believe the cost is $15 per month.
Thank you. Do we see any duplication within existing apps, within potentially other functionality and apps that the city has, or even with Google? Like, is this where the majority of people are going? Is this where the functionality is the best, or are there other options and players in the space?
Yeah, through the chair, there are a lot of people, a lot of other transit properties that are using transit app. It does seem to be the kind of app of choice. Right now, London Transit does not have an app. We do have real time, but that is a web-based system where it does require more data and everything to be able to access it. And it's not an app like people have been asking for through the voice of the customer. This is something that, because it's used in so many other transit properties, it's something that people are used to using. And it's not something new that they would have to learn how to use to access the app.
Thank you. And the report speaks to the fact that it would be easier, excuse me, for people in other markets to understand or use the app in the London market as part of the rationale for the app. Just wondering if you could.
Yeah, through the chair, that's like when we're having visitors coming into the city, because they would be used to using it in other places in surrounding areas. It would be something familiar to them if they were coming into London to use transit in the city.
Thank you. So the app itself, if we pay this cost for the 1-year pilot program, what do we foresee the benefits to be for a user who doesn't have a subscription?
So through the chair, they will have full access to the app. They'll be able to do full trip planning for all routes and be able to see in real time when those buses are arriving.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, I'm not sure, we've been talking about the smart commute app at the City of London, and I'm just wondering how much crossover, if any, is there between this app and smart commute?
Through the chair, I'm not aware of the smart commute app, so I don't have information on that.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure what to do because this app is quite expensive. I would need to better understand if we are duplicating a service through smart commute, because right now my understanding and having played around with smart commute is that it gives you transit real-time information as you're using it. And the city's paying for it right now. But I can look at it as a like without having a registered account. So I'm just trying to understand what's the difference or the benefit, but I haven't had a chance to play around with the transit app to get a better sense of it. But it already has 14,765 unique users or riders. So therefore it's already, from the usage, it's already much higher than the smart commute program. But the city is planning to invest in advertising and a campaign related to the smart commute program at no cost to LTC and on their own efforts. So I'm a bit confused because I don't want to pay for a duplication of service either. And I don't want to confuse users by having a city app and a transit app if they do similar things, and if we're trying to encourage similar things on those apps. But I'm not sure where that conversation takes place between staff to staff on these two initiatives.
Good question. Do you want staff to reach out?
Through the chair, I was going to say, I mean, we could certainly reach out and have those discussions and include that commentary in the report that comes back in June. If that's where you're headed.
Thank you. Do you need a motion?
Yes.
Yeah, well, you're going to amend this one, obviously, so.
Do we need to approve the app today, or could we put that off to June?
It could be anytime. It just won't, I mean, it will take time to then sign a contract and get it up and running regardless of when it's signed.
If we'd approved it today, what was the expected work date for transit? Was there?
We still had to work through that with transit app, so there wasn't a date that had been specified yet. It was going to be further discussions once there was approval.
Commissioner?
Thank you. Are you looking for, I think just for clarity, are you looking for a deferral until the June report comes back so that we can get a comparative analysis of smart commute as well as any other apps, tools that could be comparative in the market that exist?
Sure, yeah. Through the chair, so if we get into comparative in the market now, I mean, the thought behind this was we're doing a 1-year pilot to see what the uptake is, to get feedback from customers. If we're looking at all things available in the market, that's now saying RFP, like that's a different and quite honestly, an RFP for a 1-year pilot is going to be difficult. This was really intended more in response to the continued feedback that we get through voice of the customer, that our riders want access to real-time detour information, real-time trip planning, which is something that, you know, while we can do that on our website, they can't get it through an app. So this was really in response to that. You know, we've heard that over and over again. So our thought was, let's do a pilot. Let's see if the usage increases from what we're seeing right now. And let's include questioning around that in our next voice of the customer. And then at that time, if it looks like that's, you know, that's the way to go, then I think then would be the opportune time to go out to market. But our thinking now was, let's just try something for a year. We know that we've got a fairly significant base of people using it already. So that's my only caution, was saying what else is out there. If that's what you're looking for, that's a whole separate, you know, that's a separate process. And then I would suggest the commission should be making a decision to go into something, not just an RFP for a 1-year pilot.
For sure. Change that process.
Thank you. No, it's helpful. Yeah, I just don't know. Like I said, the smart community, I don't think it gives you real time. I just think it gives you route, like end to end. It doesn't give you the real time application. But if there's, I just don't know if it's a functionality that we will have somehow turned on in it. So exploring that would be of interest, but I don't know that, I'm not confident it replaces 1-to-1.
Yeah, through the chair. I know we aren't sending them our GTFS data, so it wouldn't have real-time information,
Yeah.
but I don't know if there is a way to have that in that app.
And for Google Maps, for instance, it isn't considered real-time information for LTC.
It is, we do send them our GTFS data. However, people, again, it's not an app, so that's where the people are saying that it's different. They want a specific transit app.
Thank you. And how many markets have their own app? I think it said 180 participants right now in this transit app.
That's through the chair. That's with transit app, but there may be other apps that people are using. I know there are some transit properties that have developed their own transit specific, like property specific app.
And right now we refer people to our site versus using Google, but
Yes,
I know
through the chair. That's because we cannot guarantee that they will have our detour information on Google. So we want to, if people want to know for sure that stops are closed and all that type of information, that's why we refer them to our site. Because again, we can't control what information Google does push out. So there are times when they don't put out the detour information or stop closure information. So and then people go to a stop that is actually closed.
and I'm just unaware, is that a functionality that Google offers?
Through the chair, they do put it out. Sometimes it's really just hit and miss whether they do or not. So, and through conversations with Google, we have not been able to get anywhere to ensure that they put out all of the detours.
Sure.
Thank you. I'll hold it there and just listen for other commentary before we move forward.
Any other questions from, Commissioner Trotman?
Yes, it was mentioned through the chair that there was 14,765 users of the app. Do we have a strategy for increasing that, or do we have a sense of what percentage that is of our base ridership? In terms of what that 14,700 means?
No, I mean, we've talked about this numerous times. We can't really identify unique ridership. I mean, we track ridership at a higher level. So no, I can't give you what that percentage would be, but in terms of what the plan would be to increase that, part of the strategy with this was if we did move forward with this, or if we do at some point in the future, a campaign that would make people aware that this app has now got all of this additional information and that the paywall is down for Londoners. So that would all be part and parcel of the rollout.
Okay, so this issue about our number of riders also came up with respect to the voice through the survey that we take. But I think that if one of the three prongs of conventional transit service evaluation is quality of information, I really think that we need to move forward on a better way of allowing people to get this information online, and while I hear that there are 15,000 users of the app, that doesn't really, I need to situate that better in terms of what the universe is that 15,000 is part of, and I just have no information about that. I'm really frustrated about that. And I'm wondering, is there some way to make estimates? Which is better than just saying we don't know.
I mean, we can do estimates on passes because we can look at the number of passes that are sold monthly. However, our passes are transferable. So you could buy a pass that you could share with 4 different family members. So now, you know, is that pass count as 1 or is it 4? And that's the kind of difficulties that you get into with coming up with an estimate of actual unique riders. We look at the tuition program, again, we can tell you exactly how many students are enrolled in that program, but we also know that some of those students never set foot on a bus. Others use it 3-4 times a day. So it's not a number that, I mean, could we guess? Yes, but would it be something that I would be confident in trying to support that guess? No, there really isn't a way to determine that number.
Okay. Based on your best guess, are you able to say that 15,000 is in a percentage range of all of our users at all?
No, I wouldn't. I have nothing that I would be confident with that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Is that it? I did have one question, to staff, in regards to the 4 push notifications a year. Is that then, that would be allowing London Transit to send the users communications?
Yes.
Okay. I quite like that. I love that. I will be personally supporting us moving forward with pilot, based on the information provided and reported from staff. I do think it's important that we look at this because it has come up multiple times, even in anecdotal conversations with other riders. It is something that people desire. And I personally, again, I use Google, but to the point of detours, I have been on many buses where I'm surprised that I'm being let off somewhere where I did not expect to be let off, especially with all the construction going on downtown. And Google did not have the updated detour information. So I do think, to Commissioner Chasso's point about being able to provide real-time information that is correct, there for me would be a strong preference of seeing, again, if this would fill that gap. Because I do think, again, personally, Google I find good most of the time, but only if all of the conditions are favorable and nothing has changed. If anything has changed, can be a bit of a surprise. So I prefer to have stronger control of the communication we're providing to riders. So I personally am okay with proceeding with this approval.
Thank you. Sorry, just to add to my earlier comments. So under Google City Solutions, does the City of London have a relationship with Google City Solutions that we can access? Or do we partner on that access and that relationship?
Not sure if transit staff would know.
No.
Thank you. So from the detour perspective, is it the responsibility of the city to provide the detour information to Google, or is it the responsibility of transit? That's where I'm a little confused.
So through the chair, it's transit. So it goes into our AVL system. We put every detour gets traced in there with exactly the routes, and then that information gets sent out through our Google Transit feed, and then it's the responsibility of whoever is using that Google Transit feed to either use it in their app or not.
Thank you. And through you. So the city, if they had Google City Solutions turned on and using it, could be giving the detour information directly into Google?
Through the chair, they don't have our detour information because they don't have access to our AVL data.
Right. Okay, thank you. I'm just trying to figure out, it feels like they said, it feels like a bit of a duplication, and I'm not sure at this time I have enough information to justify the expense. But I do see the value in having a transit app. So I would prefer to receive the report back in June before making a final decision on this item, as we didn't have a timeline anyways associated with it. So I'm not sure if you need an amendment in order to direct that.
Because we have the item on the agenda moved and seconded.
Okay, so then
Or you voted it.
Yeah, or I could vote against it, but I'd rather not vote against it. I'd rather get the full information before I make a decision. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to move an amendment to refer this item until such time as we receive the June 2026 report that we discussed previously.
Is there a seconder for that? Second by Commissioner Morgan. Any discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Trosser.
Yes, thank you for making the amendment. I'm gonna support it. I probably should ask whether it would be, feasible to include in that report, just a basic scan of some other jurisdictions to see how they deal with app situations, so we have some comparators. I don't think you need to amend the motion for that.
No, we don't.
Thank you.
Okay. And just for my fault, staff are willing to provide some more analysis on the apps in the June motion, because it didn't feel like that was included in the what we passed.
Well, in order to provide details, like to say this app would be this much for a pilot, this would be this much for a pilot. Now we're talking about an RFP. So if that's what you're looking for, then I would suggest we're not going to have an RFP done and back by June.
Commissioner understand. Okay. Commissioner Rom?
Thank you, through you. So I wasn't looking for a report back on an RFP at this point. I was just looking for more information to make a decision on the transit app and also some of those conversations with the city around Google City Solutions and with respect to smart commute and other things that the city has planned to try to attract the same riders to an app that they're also pushing out.
Commissioner Morgan?
So I'll support the referral. I think at the heart here, whether it's possible or not, I don't think we know, is like just a better, more integrated customer service perspective for people getting around the city, right? So if there's a way to push these things together, whether it's Google or within one app, I think it's probably better. If they have to be separate at the end of the day, maybe they have to be separate. But I just know from talking to my kids, the more apps you ask them to download, the less likely they are to use any of them, right? They'll focus on like, how can I just get this all in one spot, right? So I know Google's trying to do that, but they obviously can't do everything. So I'm not sure what the solution is, but I like the idea of let's just have a conversation. And if it's not possible, I think that's a fair answer too. So
Any other questions or comments? So then it would be the amendment would refer item I, and then we'd still have to receive the report from Duration and approve the I that we added. So, other questions or comments regarding the amendment for item I? No? Okay, calling the vote. All in favor of referring that to the June meeting? And any opposed? And that carries. And okay, and then we still have on the floor moved and seconded the
Point of order, a very minor point of order. When we have votes, could you say for the record what the vote was and what the vote, because we're not doing a roll call. We don't have a screen. Could you state what the vote was?
in favor, was everyone accepting? So then we have motion to receive, and then the other amendment for the report back in June. That was already moved and seconded. Is there any further commentary on that? Commissioner Warren?
yeah, I voted against adding the amendment. Now that it's in there, I'm happy to support the report back and get all the information. So I appreciate the discussion we had. So I'll support the whole thing.
Great, I will split them then. Okay, then I will call a vote. All in favor of the remaining two items, and any opposed? That carries unanimously. All right, thank you for the discussion on item 4. Moving on to item for direction. So item 8, first coming up, the reclass of the 2026 operating budget program. Are there any questions or comments on that? And there is a recommendation to approve the recosted budget.
The recommendation.
Okay, a seconder. Second by Commissioner Morgan. Any comments or questions on the recosted budget? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? And any opposed? Okay, great. So that carries unanimously. Moving to item 9, recosted capital budget program. And that addition comes with a recommendation to approve the recosted capital budget. Any comments, questions, and we'll move that item?
I can move it.
Okay, no, my seconder, Commissioner Trossa. Comments, questions on the capital budget program? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? And any opposed, that carries unanimously. Moving to contract award, primary service provider for specialized transit. So I might go to Sean.
Thank you. Through the chair, as the report recommendation sets out, administration is recommending the private primary service provider contract award to Talk Transit. This recommendation is based on the results of the bid evaluation as set out in the report. As the evaluation matrix sets out, significant weight was allocated to the bidder's understanding of the service being provided and their experience with accessible transportation. Talk Transit currently employs over 800 employees across Canada and maintains a fleet of over 600 vehicles. They have 20 years' experience providing accessible transportation across the country. They are currently the contracted service providers for specialized transit in the city of Orillia, York Region, and the city of St. John's, Newfoundland. In addition to specialized transit, Talk also holds a contract for delivery of conventional services, conventional transit service in York Region. As set out in the report, subsequent to the commission confirming award of the contract, discussions will begin with respect to the transition plan. Updates on the transition will be provided to the commission through the quarterly update process, noting that should any issue arise that requires immediate direction, a report will be included on the next agenda. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Trossa?
Yes, and thank you very much for the report, which I felt was very thorough and detailed. So I'm not going to ask questions about what was in there, but looking forward, I would like to suggest, and I don't know if a motion is needed, but the report. Well, when we talk about the implementation plan, I very much want the advisory committee to be very active in doing this. And I'd like the matter. I guess this isn't the place to say it should be on that agenda. I can talk to the chair, but just so you know, I want this discussed at the next advisory committee. There are going to be, I already know from the feedback that I've got, which is positive, but there are going to be a lot of questions about the implementation. And I think it's important for people to have not the responses to the request for proposals, because I understand those would be confidential, but the RFP document itself, which is a matter of public record, I would like to see that circulated more broadly. I want all the members of the advisory committee to have that in front of them as they begin this discussion, because that's going to be the baseline for how we're moving forward. I would also like to have the, and I don't know if it's premature to do this, I would like to have the new service provider invited to start attending our advisory committee meetings as an ad hoc member.
And I've asked staff maybe to comment on this item, so would this kind of information go to the committee and with that?
We would certainly share, I mean, anything relevant with the advisory committee. Obviously, that would be standing items on their agenda. As with this award, we would always make them aware of that. In terms of inviting the next contractor, my caution would be, we won't technically be in a contractual situation with them until they start. So I would caution about appointing. That's not to say they couldn't participate as a visitor. We do have virtual, so certainly we will offer that to them, but I wouldn't recommend including them as a member of the committee at this time.
Yeah, I just want them to feel welcome and let them know that people on that committee are very looking forward to working with them very productively. I guess my other question is, I appreciate that the actual responses from which the data was derived is confidential, but I would like to request that the board members receive that as a confidential item, the actual RFPs, responses to the RFPs.
That,
In confidence.
no, that's not. Okay, would you like to make an amendment to that?
Is that necessary?
Here's some.
I would like to make an amendment that the RFP be recirculated publicly, as it's a public document, and that the responses to the RFP, which are confidential documents, be circulated to members of the commission in confidence.
Is there a seconder for that? Seeing none.
Was the problem the first part or the second part?
Commissioner, I'm not gonna engage in a back and forth. There's no secondary.
Okay, well, then I'll make another motion to simply request that the responses to the RFP be circulated to commission members in confidence, period.
Okay, is there a seconder? Seeing none, there's no seconder. Do you have any further comments or questions?
No, I don't actually.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on Commissioner Morgan?
I just wanted to comment on the report and say I really appreciate it. And I would say scoring is quite impressive for the winning component, like 92 out of a possible 100 is a pretty impressive result in an RFP process. So I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, what that looks like from an operational perspective, and really appreciate that there was a robust response to the RFP from multiple people, and staff had a lot to assess. So thanks for everybody who did the work. And again, this gives me a lot of, you know, optimism about, you know, the forthcoming service. And obviously we appreciate the good people who provided the previous service and their engagement with riders in the past. So I know this doesn't come into effect until later, but I'm, you know, I'm very happy to see the results of the RFP.
Thank you. Actually, as we don't have a motion on the floor, so would anyone like to move the recommendation for the report? Moved by Commissioner Morgan, seconded by Commissioner Rahman. Any final comments or questions on the item? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? And any opposed? That carries unanimously. Moving on to contract award for the diesel fuel. Including with the recommendation to approve a contract and to administer contract details. To get that on the floor, we can look to move that item. Moved by Commissioner Morgan, seconded by Commissioner Lehman. Any questions or comments on the diesel fuel contract? Commissioner Topper?
Yes, I'm not going to ask questions about the contract itself, but why would this not be something that would be on the consent calendar?
Through the chair, we just looked at the size of the award and thought that it may be something the commission wanted to discuss.
For sure.
Do we have a set of guidelines through the chair of what goes as a consent item or what does not go as a consent item, or is it just each agenda is just made up?
Through the chair, I mean, we follow the general guidelines that if they are things that are matter of course business or things that have been included in the work plan, they're consent. Like I said, in this case, it was purely just the size of the award that we thought the commission may want to discuss.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion moved and seconded, all in favor? And any opposed, that carries unanimously. And then 2025 audit requirement. So that is a recommendation to confirm the responses from the audit inquiries and direct administration to complete this with the form on behalf of the commission. Any comments or questions on that, or is there reserve for that recommendation? Moved by Commissioner Morgan, seconded by Commissioner Rahman. Comments, questions? Yeah.
Sorry, thank you. You did mention that you would sign something or agree to sign something on behalf of the commission. That I assume is just the chair that's signing on behalf of all of us with respect to agreeing to.
Through the chair, what we'll do is we'll just complete the form, and when we submit it to KPMG, we'll copy the chair so that they're aware that the chair has and we'll let them know that this report went as well. I'm not filling out that.
That's all. Okay. Great. Any further comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, I have that moved and seconded, so all in favor? And any opposed? Carries unanimously. So now we are moving into an in-camera item. So just for folks to know, we will be doing a motion from the camera. We'll ask everyone who's not being to exit, so folks in the gallery. But the item is moving camera to consider the following: a matter pertaining to advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose with respect to a joint procurement, section 239(2)(f). Do I have a motion to move the camera? Moved by Commissioner Rahman, second by Commissioner Lehman. All in favor? And any opposed? That carries. unanimously. Okay, so we'll give 2 minutes to set up for the cameras.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving back into open session, to wrap up the end of the agenda, the date of the next meeting is Monday. Oh, yes, I'd love a report out. Commissioner Roman, can you report out?
Thank you. I will report out progress made in the edits of which one.
Perfect, wonderful. That's great. Good reminder. Okay, so then the date of our next meeting is Monday, April 27th, 2026, 9:15 here. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn, moved by Commissioner Roman, thank you, Commissioner Morgan, and all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. So meeting is adjourned at 11:02 a.m. Thank you.